I felt so fortunate at the inauguration for Barack Obama in 2009. I was seated behind the Little Rock Nine, the surviving Little Rock Nine, who,
Oh, wow.
integrated the schools there after the Democratic governor back from that period. The governor shut down the entire school system in Arkansas for a year to allow the creation of white schools, white private schools.
Yes.
And then the schools were integrated after that white flight was allowed a full year break in education to take place. And then when I was looking at Lewis Powell, who was the person famous for the Powell memo that pushed for corporations and business leaders to get more involved in our democracy, leading to cases ultimately like Citizens United. Lewis Powell wasn't just a tobacco lawyer who tried to stop the regulation of cigarettes. He was actually the lawyer to the Richmond School District in Virginia as it was contending with the Brown versus Board of Education order.
Oh, wow.
And he was behind helping to create these scholarships for white kids to get out of the schools of Richmond. So as you point out, there was this just absolute massive resistance from the get-go. And then some of these people had kids and maybe grandkids, and their reaction to the election of Barack Obama, a moderate president of such extraordinary character, that they would respond by electing someone so unfit and so manifestly, into making these racial dog whistles and more. And now this purging, it's just an extraordinary reaction. But those racist reactionaries have always been with us. They did not go away, and they did not concede defeat after President Obama was elected. And so your book, I think, is I'm certain from your description, sheds really important new light on these long chapters of our history of failing to meet the promises of equal protection of the law.
Thank you.
And I will just add to this that the resentments that have been uncorked by Trump and how they are fueled using desegregation as the fuel. We are living with that right now as well. And it is also important to remember that Ruby Bridges is still
alive.
She's very much still alive. She's only a little bit older than my oldest brother. This is not ancient history, and the people spitting on her and yelling horrible things, and the classmates who wouldn't sit next to her are still alive and still voting and still speaking into the common space. I saw something where Trevor Noah said, it's really amazing. I talked to white South Africans, and it turns out none of them ever supported apartheid. Isn't that wild, right? And that sort of collective amnesia. So I appreciate your book because I think it challenges some very simple mythology about where we actually are and the path we've actually taken. And the only way to address these things is to look that history, squarely in the face. I know we're going to move to another segment, but I just wanted to ask you if there's anything else, whether it is, Mary McLeod Bethune or anything else that you look at and you say right now there are lessons that we ought to be taking from that history.
One thing that I will say, I remember during the first Trump presidency, it really seemed like he was intent on just undoing anything President Obama had done. Like his whole first 6 months or whatever was just, we're going to undo this. Like we're just going to undo that. One thing, and I wonder how intentional this was on their part. The way that in the South, at least, that school integration, that what broke the back of the massive resistance, or began to, was President Johnson decided to withhold federal funds from any school districts that maintain dual tracks. They had tried all manner of resistance strategies up to this point. In 1964, though, Johnson says, all right, look, We're just not funding you anymore. And this begins a chain reaction. It's not immediate. I actually integrated Pinellas County Schools in 1972. I went to Skycrest Elementary, which was the first year in Pinellas that schools were integrated. So it took a minute, but 1964, Johnson saying we will use the power of the federal government in the purse to bring these rights into being, and to watch that happen now in the reverse, right? To watch then the Trump administration basically do the same thing. We're going to break the back of civil rights law. We're going to break the backs of higher education by denying them funds. But denying them funds in a way for laws. The executive orders are not laws. I mean, we have not, the Congress, no one has repealed actual laws here. It's just this sort of reinterpretation based on new people coming in, and then using the power of the purse to shore up a idiosyncratic kind of understanding of what America should be. I find this an odd symmetry. But on the one hand, you're shoring up rights. The Supreme Court said that these are the things that need to happen, and so you have to use this club to do what the Supreme Court said. On the other, you're going into private institutions and telling them who they can hire, how they can hire, what they can teach, and then going into the public schools and the ways that he's using Title I funding and other government funds. And Title I funds are for the poorest kids, the kids who are in poverty. The way that he's using that to those funds to actually deepen segregation, to harm more people, to take away government supports. It's an undoing of a fundamental understanding of the role of government in a democracy, that it's not to serve people, it's not to protect, it's not to ensure equality, but it's to shore up the vision of an exclusive, a very narrow understanding of what the government, who the government serves, why it serves, and why it needs to be. And we have to, as many people as can see what is unfolding here, we have to resist in ways large and small. The things that we can do, hold on to, don't forget, don't let this amnesia that took place after Wilson, in the public kind of amnesia around what the Civil War was, who actually won. There was this whole, we cannot let that happen here in this moment. We fought so hard and so long for some sense of equality, and we weren't perfect. But we at least believed in equal protection. The law provided some kind of relief for equal protection. And now it just feels like you're just at the mercy of the people with the biggest amounts of money, and little to no regard for the least of these. And it's an odd symmetry. It's asymmetrical. And I just don't even know what else to say. But we should notice. We have to notice, and bless y'all for talking about it, for making it a topic of conversation and being brave enough to dig into it for your first podcast. Yay.
Noliwe, thank you so much. I hope people will read both books. They're tremendous. And you have a website, Noliwe Rooks. .org. And folks can follow you there. They can find your books and follow you on social media.